Welcome everyone to the Bran'sTech podcast. We're so glad to have you here today. This episode is found in both audio and video form. As per usual, you can find this episode anywhere you can find podcasts, but to watch the video, you'll have to go to spotify.brandstech.com. This episode will begin in just one moment after this sponsored break, so please stay tuned. Are you a content creator or business owner? Perhaps you're a podcaster like myself. Well, regardless, go ahead and check out riverside.fm for all your recording needs. Riverside allows for high-quality video and audio content. In fact, you're able to make posts for Instagram, Snapchat, or whichever social media pages you like, all within their platform. And the best part about it, you don't have to install a separate application. It's all online. To go ahead and check out more information, click the affiliate link located within the episode description. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Hello everyone, I'm Brandon K. Hedgepeth, a communicator, lifelong learner, and your friend here today for another episode of Bran'sTech podcast. I'm really excited to be here with you all for today's video podcast. And so today, I'm very happy to introduce my guest for today. My guest has a pretty big interest in nature with strong interest in music and even photography, and is currently a nursing student at Virginia Peninsula Community College. Please welcome my guest for today, Kadin Roane. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hello, thank you guys for welcoming me in.
Oh yeah, of course. And so before we get into today's episode, I did want to first of all ask you, how are you doing today?
Doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm very excited going into this interview, and I just really can't wait to speak with you.
Me too.
Yeah, and so before I get started with the questions, I did want to allow an opportunity for you to go ahead and introduce yourself to the listening audience or watching audience before we go ahead and get started for the day.
All right. As stated, my name is Kadin. As stated as well, I'm very big on nature, nursing, photography. I actually have my own photography page where I take film pictures, and I'm very heavy on music as well. I listen to all types of different music. I'm sure Brandon will go ahead and get deeper into that, but yeah, I'm pretty broad on music, so.
Well, that is really great to hear, and I mean, I'm just so excited to get in. I'm not even sure where to start, but I guess I'll go ahead and start off with nursing for you. So what actually got you into nursing, and at what point did you realize this was the career path that you wanted to go on?
That's actually a great question. I feel like, especially in the nursing program, they ask that a lot, kind of like what brings you into wanting to be a nurse. I feel like it all started back in like 2016. My grandmother was in the hospital, and I was never really exposed to like the hospital environment up until that point in my life. So once she got in the hospital, I was there like making visits and seeing the environment and things of that sort. I kind of gained a lot of interest into it, a lot of curiosity. And my mother, she's also works in hospice care, so she's been a big help along my journey with just helping me with connections or, trying to find ways to navigate my way through school to find it the cheapest way possible. But I feel like it all branches back to really my grandmother and my mother as my main influences. And then once I got in the nursing program, I kind of fell in love with the environment and just kind of helping people and like just seeing them get better and, hearing them out and, being by their side. So something I enjoy.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you are enjoying your time in the program thus far. And so how far are you into the program as of recording this?
I am going into my third semester. So it will be 4 semesters and then I have my associates. So I should have it by December of this year. Well, December of next year, my bad.
So December of 2023.
Yes.
Cool. Well, early congratulations for you on that. I know there's still a little bit of time between recording this now and then, but I know that time's just going to go really quickly for you. So yeah, so definitely best of luck with all of that. And I'm sure you're going to do like really well with continuing your time for the
I
program.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh yeah, of course. And I guess before we switch gears, I did want to, yeah, I guess mention too that for you that you're already sort of already immersed within the the whole hospital care game with your current job. And so I do you mind telling us a little bit about that and what you're currently doing?
Yeah, so I currently work at Centera. I do registrations there at the outpatient Little Central registration they have over there. We see about maybe 200-ish patients a day, which can be very hectic, but I've got pretty used to it, so it's in and out, in and out. But I do enjoy seeing the faces of the people in the community and seeing the needs. And you kind of really get exposed to like all the issues and health problems that are out there. Specifically in this area, we have like a very big vitamin D issue and like kidney issues and things of that sort. So it's kind of interesting to see, how your area, how everything, how everyone really is, health wise. But on my registrations, we go ahead and administer them into the hospital. Sometimes they may need labs or they may need to go and do an invasive procedure. We're just making sure that they get from point A to B, and that they have all their paperwork together, as well as any payments or anything of that sort, while they're at the hospital.
Wow. And so how long have you been doing this, and has it given you a bit of a different perspective in terms of how you view the community and I guess your ambitions to become a registered nurse?
So I believe it's coming up on 9 months now. Yeah, it should be about 9 months now. But it's definitely like tremendously changed my idea of the community. We actually have like a very close-knit community, a lot of caring people. Of course, you have the people that come in, they're not in a good mood. You try not to take it personal, but for the most part, everyone's very caring. I've had people come in and just be like, I was waiting out here before I came into your room, and something told me to pray for you. I've had people pray for me, had people come in, gift us food. Everyone's very appreciative for just the administrative staff that we have. Um, and that's good to see because it shows that they not only appreciate us, but they appreciate everyone above us as well. So
Wow. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, that we truly have such a caring community, and especially within these past 2 or 3 years, where this kind of work has been it's always been
yeah,
important, but the appreciation for it has hit different
oh
levels
yeah,
in the sense of obviously the urgency of everything given this pandemic that we're gradually coming out of. And so so I definitely think you and all of the other workers and nurses and doctors and everyone who works there for all of your generous work and everything that you all have done both now, back then, and even to come. Because even though it may not always be in the forefront of our minds,
hmm
is that the work that you all do, even for outpatient registration, truly does make a genuine difference. And so I did want to go ahead and extend my
I
thanks.
appreciate that. It really means a lot. And like you were saying, with COVID, yeah, that was very huge. Especially when I first got to the job, it was very huge. We still had a lot of things in place to make sure people weren't spreading COVID, and it's actually kind of crazy at one point. I think we had like the emergency room. It was on lockdown because we had so many COVID patients in, and it had like people waiting in the hospital just to get COVID tested during like a huge outbreak we had. But thankfully, it's not as bad now, and things are starting to become safer in a way. But there are new variants out there, so it's still good to stay on your P's.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I guess switching gears a little bit, you mentioned earlier that you are really big into music, and that was actually something that I didn't even know. And so, what really got you into music, and in which way are you actually interested in it? Because I'm quite curious.
Um, Really, I think subconsciously it started, when I was younger with my dad. He used to play a lot of old school hip hop. And then from there, I've kind of branched off as I've gotten older. I listen to a lot of like alternative indie music or like rock music now, or I still listen to my rap, R&B. I listen to just about anything, but I'm very open to all different types of music, and I feel like really I connect on it's like on a soul level with music. Like, whenever I listen to it, I like to hear the tunes, I like to hear the grooves and songs. Recently, I've gotten interested in like learning to try and learn how to play a bass guitar. So I actually plan on buying one for my birthday this summer, and trying to learn from there. So, I'm just trying to, expand on where I'm at with music and continue to just be a listener and lover of it. So, yeah.
Well, that's actually pretty cool. And and so I guess so. I even though it's shifted over the years, as of right now, of recording this in July 2022, what would you say are probably like your top genre of music or your favorite songs as of right now?
My top genre would probably be alternative. I went to Tame Impala's concert in March, and ever since then, I've like fallen in love with like alternative music. Um, my favorite songs right now, I that's like a very hard question. It probably changes like every day. It kind of just depends on my mood for the day. Usually my outlook, like usually when I'm at work, I have my AirPods in like the entire shift. I take them out when the patient comes in, and right as they leave, I'll pop it back in. But I'm like listening to music like almost every hour of the day. So it kind of changes as my mood change. But I'm usually in a pretty optimistic mood, so it's always happy, go lucky, good music to be around.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And sort of like for me, if you were to ever ask about any of my favorites, like I would say that I have no favorites in the sense of everything I do can change every time you ask me the
Hmm.
question. And I truly don't keep favorites because I literally enjoy almost anything of anything. So yeah, it's very rare I don't like something, and so yeah, I completely get that. And so yeah, and for you, I also know that you do photography as well. And so, how long have you been interested in photography? And I did actually come across your photography page not too long before this interview, so I'm glad I was able to get a little snapshot of that. No pun intended.
Yeah, you know, a lot of hobbies that I've actually grown on or like have had since a kid have all branched from my dad. Track, photography, music, even just like being social in a way. Like I get a lot of my traits from my dad. And photography is also one of them. I think when I was maybe in like 10th grade, he had given me my first camera. It was a D500 Nikon. And at first, I was kind of oblivious. I didn't know how to work a camera, but I, learned, taught myself how to work a camera. I even learned how to do like graphic designs and like Cinema 4D and Photoshop and things of that sort. Um, and so I kind of branched off of that. But as time went on, I continued to like do little shoots with my friends, like after school, after high school. Um, and now I kind of do like point and shoot photography. I've gone to New York, I've gone to Norfolk a few times to take some photography. I've been in Yorktown. Recently, I just got back from Colorado. I went to the Sand Dunes and Sand Dune National Park. Very beautiful national park. You should definitely go there. But I have some photos up there on my film camera. And I'm actually going to the Shenandoah Valley. I usually go up there like every year, but I'm going out there this year, and I plan on taking some more photos just to open up my stock more. And eventually they will be on my Instagram page that you came across. If you guys are interested to look at it, it's KD shot that. It's just KD shot and then that. But yeah, that's really all I have on photography. But it is a very big growing hobby for me, and I'm falling in love with it even now till today. So
Wow. And so for the Colorado trip, out of curiosity, was that specifically to take pictures, or were you already there and you just happened to take pictures during your trip?
so my brother's actually stationed in Colorado. He has been for maybe 2 or 3 years. I think my first time going out there was maybe like 2020. like December 2020 maybe. Um, and I instantly fell in love with it. You know, we went hiking. They have this like huge incline. It's like a mile up, but it's like 2,000 stories, and it's like you're literally climbing a mountain to the very top. It's very challenging, but you know, I love it. I love being in nature, love being surrounded by the environment, and just you know, I think hiking, running, anything of those sorts have really grown on me since then. But yeah, I went to Colorado because my brother lives out there, and I just so happened to bring my camera with me.
Yeah, well, one of the things I've always, well, first of all, I'm glad that you were able to see your brother. I did want to say that first, but one of the things I've learned too, like even with doing video or photography or any of the all of the above, is it's like when it becomes like a part of you, and it's just like you can't leave anywhere without your
Mm.
camera, even if you know that you're not going to be able to take pictures. It's just like the fact that you're always able to pull out something, and I mean, I suppose that's a benefit of like having like a smartphone or something. But I mean, I don't know. But it's like nothing is just the same as just pulling out a nice like DSLR camera or a movie camera and just yeah shooting that way.
Right. And for you, would you say like videography is like something that you would go out and look for and for me personally, like when I'm out, I catch things all the time. Like that'd be a great photo, or I wish I had my camera on me for this or that. So yeah, I do keep it in my car now because there's been plenty of times like I'm like, yeah, I wish I had my camera on me. Um, but yeah, I'd probably expect the same thing for you, like with videography. Like you're probably like, oh, this would be like a great little shot right now, or things of that sort.
Yeah, definitely. And for me, like when I got my first camera, because interestingly enough, I've always had a even though I've been doing videography for like 4 years now, is I've always also had an interest in photography as well. And so I didn't go as much the professional route in terms of photography. That's more so like a self taught sort of thing. But but yeah, I've always gone around and like always looked for like the best shots. So a lot of times, not even I don't even have to look for them. I mean, it's just like a lot of times, like going around, it's just like you just see so many things that are just like memories to be captured, and it's just like it's hard when I don't have my nice camera, my nice DSLR camera on me, to be able to take the picture I want. Nothing's wrong with my phone camera or anything, but I mean, it's just nice being able to do that. And then even for videos too, being able to capture these memories, but and moments as they happen. And for me, especially, like I like doing more of like naturey pictures for when I do pictures of people interacting, but not necessarily a lot of pose stuff. Just more so like as it actually happens, because it's more natural and like I don't know, it sort of like brings up more of the actual memories when you look back at it. Be like, oh yeah, I remember doing this, as opposed to yeah. This is the time that someone had me stand here for like 20 minutes as they took repeated pictures of me. Nothing's wrong with that, but I mean, it's a different feeling, and I don't know what the other word I was going for, but it's definitely a different approach.
Yeah, I'm glad you actually mentioned that because I have been on both sides of the coin now, where I've, back in high school, I was actually having people pose and, I was struggling with posing myself. I'm like, I don't know how I should make them pose, but I'm the photographer here, so like, let me get creative. But yeah, like, I think now I definitely prefer like the more authentic shot, catching someone while they're in the moment. While I was in New York, actually, there was a van driving by. And I don't know if you know who this designer is, Virgil, but he's a pretty big designer like hip hop and things of that sort. He helped with like Off-White and things like that. But he basically went ahead and well, he didn't go ahead, but he passed away. And there was a van in New York, and they were driving by, and they actually had like a little tribute for him and everything on the van. Um, and I like point and shoot photography, so I just grabbed my camera as they're driving by, snap the shot real quick. And I think I actually have it on my page, the shot, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I'm more so loving, just being able to go ahead and get that in the moment type of shot rather than posing somebody.
Yeah, definitely a lot more authentic. And I still never figured out the word I was going to say earlier, but yeah, it just sort of gives a different connotation to it almost. Like, and yeah, it truly is just such a different feeling to it. And what's interesting too is the difference of when you're just, I'm not sure how often you may have encountered this, but the difference between when someone tells you to take a picture of a certain moment and then when you just do it naturally. Because even then, just the fact of knowing that you're being captured almost, I don't know, it sort of changes the tone a little. Tone, that's the word I was looking for. But yeah, it sort of just, changes it a little.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I feel like with that, social media has like a huge part to play with it. Because if you would have did that like back in the day, of course everyone would have still, changed their posture and everything. But that's because they're expected to be seen when they're taking the photo. You take a photo and you expect to be seen after in this photo, to show it off, to, embrace yourself. So I feel like it's definitely something, as a society nowadays, it's shaped around social media, kind of like, oh, they're taking a picture of me, let me look good real quick. Oh, get my good side, do this, do that type of thing.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I like that you brought up that it's sort of always been like that with with cameras, but that it's just more so has taken it to a new
Yeah.
height. Because I know a lot of times, especially when we think of technology, we're like, oh yeah, well these people are always on their phones and always doing this and that, but yeah, we didn't have that. But back then it was a different technology, and it may not be the traditional electronic technology. I mean, even newspapers were even considered. Oh, well, people are always reading that
Hmm.
stuff. Why don't you just just hear it from the crowd like everyone else? I mean, as crazy as that is to say now, I mean it's true. So yeah, the way that we perceive things just changed so much, even over the course of just a few yeah, decades, years, months, and I mean, as we experienced with the COVID-19 pandemic, I mean, even hours and days. Yeah, I mean, things change so quickly nowadays.
Yeah, especially like how you mentioned with COVID, like, me and you, we were seniors that year, and it went from, a 2 week summer break to, never going back to high school. So it's definitely an adjustment, but I feel like, everything's adjusting nowadays at a quicker rate than it ever has. So it's kind of like you get on board or, you're kind of stuck in the past nowadays.
Yeah, that is quite true, and I guess that's almost like a perfect segue into, I guess, another question. I'm just sort of curious of. So for you, obviously, as we mentioned, you obviously finished high school within the early part of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so June 2020, after the graduation ceremony, how was everything for you? I mean, did you know what you wanted to do next at that point? I mean, I know you mentioned earlier that you did have the idea of nursing in place at that point, but was it something where you knew that you were going to try to achieve it right then, or how was that time for you?
So actually I struggled a lot, especially through high school, trying to figure out what I wanted to do in my life. Like what career I wanted to have. And I feel like now I'm definitely like in a better spot with that. I'm definitely know how I want my life to go, and how I want to serve, who I want to surround myself with, and the energy I want to be surrounded with. Um, but I feel like in high school, like I was constantly changing. I probably went from, yeah, I remember I wanted to be like a physician assistant at one point, a nurse practitioner. Um, at one point I was like maybe a doctor, and I was like, no, that's too much school. So the ultimate goal now, which I'm still, learning about, trying to figure out, but I think it is something I'm very confident I would like to be, is a certified registered anesthetist nurse. Um, so they basically just put people to sleep, but involves a lot of, chemistry, drugs, a whole pathophysiology of somebody. Um, so yeah, that's something I'm, very interested in now. But before I was like completely lost. And going into June, I was like, okay, well, I know I like the healthcare facilities, and I know I like the medical field. So why not try nursing? So I went to Thomas Nelson, and well, Thomas Nelson at the time, and I did anatomy, my English courses, knocked out some prerequisite courses I had to do. And I think in that after I took anatomy, like I fell in love with it. Like I just became fascinated with the human body and, all the different, hormones we release, all the different bones we have, chemical exchanges. It's crazy how, like, on a cellular level, how much complicated things are going on, and how deeply they can be studied, actually, compared to what people usually know about our bodies.
That's fascinating. Yeah, how enthused you are about this and like how much you're learning. And what's interesting too is I don't know. It's just like because many of us are so aware of the medical field, but don't actually. I mean, it's like, for instance, everyone has to see their doctor like a few times, whether it's like once a year, a few times a year, however often people, go see their medical professionals. But it's always a profession we're definitely always aware of. But it's always interesting to actually hear stuff from the other side of it because yeah, like oftentimes we just think, oh yeah, well they come in, they make sure I'm well, and then they go on to the next person. But it's always interesting to sort of hear, yeah, I mean, like what you all are learning, what you all are doing, and like how much this interests you. And like I said, maybe it's just because I'm just like always extremely curious to hear about everything, but I don't know, it's just really fascinating to me to be able to to sort of hear how like this whole progress is going for you, just because it's like oftentimes we don't think about that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I feel like a lot of times, the work you put in is overshadowed and really the accomplishment is celebrated. So I'm a big believer in like celebrating the milestones along the way. You get in a nursing school, you pass a semester, those are huge milestones, especially within anyone's life. It could be, a whole different major. You pass your English exam, for example, go out and celebrate yourself. I'm big on, showing appreciation for yourself and, making sure that you are giving yourself that self-care that you need. Um, and I feel like, like you're saying, like the fascination it just comes along, as I am being exposed to more and more stuff. Like there's still so much I don't know about the medical field. I'm being exposed to new careers like every day. Behind me where I work, there's phlebotomists, medical assistants, nurses, doctors. I run into these people every day. And, sometimes I'm registering nurses that work in the hospital. I just ask them questions, pick their mind, see how they're doing, see how they feel about their field. Like I was just talking to a nurse, she's been a nurse for about 40 years now, she said. She became a nurse when she was 20. Um, and, she's told me, it's been a rocky road. And of course, I can understand that because, you know, nursing nursing is definitely not pretty. It's very, very political. There's a lot of things we can do, a lot of things we can't do. There's a definite fine line between it, but it gets very political, especially back in the day. And I feel like now we're starting to get those changes that are needed to really, make sure there are better nurses in the future and things of that sort. So, I do like the way nursing is going, and I feel like it's for the best. So,
Well, that's good to hear that at least it's going in the right positive direction, I'm glad to hear that too. That you're definitely picking up on the curiosity of trying to sort of like hear a whole bunch of different perspectives, and even what you're saying earlier too about hearing the different stories of the patients that come in and being able to feel part of that community. And so it's just I really like how like you're truly trying to, I guess, make the most of all of this and being able to, yeah, as you said, yeah, just said too, celebrating the milestones and everything else, and just truly making the most of all of these interactions. And I mean, as a communication major, that honestly is just, yeah, I mean, just so great to hear that you're willing to put yourself out there and yeah, and wanting to find out more and wanting to have these connections, even when you don't necessarily have all too much time between, yeah, of course, checking everyone in. And how do you have time for all of this stuff?
um, you kind of just make time. Sometimes there may be patients where they're venting to you, and they just need someone to listen to them, and you give them that time. Sometimes, a patient may be in a rush. All right, that's a quick registration. Sometimes you're in a room for 30 minutes talking to a patient. There are very genuine people out there, and the conversations can get deep very quick. And me being 19, I think just being able to interact with all these older people, because usually it's older people in their 60s, 50s, 70s, sometimes even 90s and things of that sort. It is a privilege that, I do love having, just being able to talk to them, pick their minds, see how their life is going. I do appreciate, at the end of the conversation, they usually are, I hope saying things like, oh, I hope, your journey goes well, I hope you live a nice life. And, they give their own advice and, words of encouragement. So I do appreciate them for that. And also, I did have a question for you. I was going to say, as a communication major, like, do you have any advice for people who did want to learn more about, connecting and things of that sort?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I would say, there's a lot of great advice I could give, but honestly, I think a major part of advice is, yeah, just always be open to different opportunities and for willing to listen to people, because not everyone has the same ways of communicating. And yeah, whereas for some people it's just like, yeah, hey, how are you doing? And it just might be like, I'm fine. I know a lot of people would leave it at that and just, that's the end of the story, that's the end. But a lot of times there's always a lot more to that. And like, I always try to make myself available to be able to hear everyone's stories and being able to understand where people are coming from. You may not 100% like fully get it, but at least being able to listen and be someone that they can talk to. And it doesn't actually always have to be talking per se, because not everyone has those same verbal abilities. And so sometimes it might be through like body language. And of course, a lot of this is much easier with in-person communication as opposed to electronic communication, because truly anyone can be doing anything, where theoretically you could say LOL to a message, but in reality they might be crying and need someone to speak to. You really don't know. And so I always try to like evaluate, what I call conversations. Like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be a true conversation in the way we think of it, but just being able to always be there and be able to understand and wanting to be able to listen and willing to take that extra time to listen, because the time spent actually does make a difference. And I know, as much as it sounds probably all over the place, it truly does matter how much you try to communicate with someone and in the ways that you want to do it. Because usually, someone who mentioned this on my podcast before, usually someone can sense that you're trying to speak with them, you're trying to open up with them. Usually they will try to make the extra effort to know that you do care. And I guess that's what I would say in that regard.
No, I really like that advice, especially you kind of reminded me like not everyone, like you said, has that verbal capacity to go ahead and communicate. And I feel like I was really exposed to that within the hospital. We actually get like ASL patients. Some people, they have dementia, all these different types of conditions, and you have to accommodate them to the best of your ability. And I feel like you said, just giving them that time, that patience, not showing any frustration, just kind of like treating them as if they're normal, treating them, as if their disability doesn't define them is really, what's most important in that time. Because I feel like a lot of the time these disabilities are looked over. Like a lot of times people are like, oh, this is a stupid idea, but really this idea is meant for somebody who's in need of, special needs or things of that sort. So like you said, I feel like it's extremely important to go ahead and give people the time of day to listen to them, view their body language, see how they feel, and then come back and evaluate the conversation.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, having done the podcast too for, having well over 50 guests at this point, I actually lost count of how many guests I've had on the show and all the other stuff I've done overall. I do know it's well over 50, but but I mean, having done this, being able to hear everyone's different perspectives and thoughts and everything, I mean, it truly does help strengthen the idea to me that like the true power of communication and wanting to and willing to listen to what others have to say. I mean, it's probably like one of the most powerful tools you can ever have is just being able to communicate with others and listen, in whatever way, shape, or form that may be for you. And yeah, I truly believe in that. And so as we're gradually wrapping up here, so anything else that you would like to say while we're still here speaking? Anything to either, to myself, like in the form of questions, or anything else that you would like to bring up about your story? The floor is all yours.
No, not really. I feel like you really, touched a lot of good points, and I feel like we really dove deep into the conversation regarding, everything that we had to mention.
Well, that is good to hear. And like I said, I've just really enjoyed being able to speak with you during this time. And like I said, it just truly makes a difference. Like, at least even to me, and I'm sure for many of those listening or watching, to be able to see these different perspectives. Because a lot of times we don't have a chance to really sit down and really hear what others have to say. And I know one of the things that get told a lot is like, oh, I've never been able to tell these stories before. And and so I always love having a platform where I'm able to allow people to tell their stories. Because a lot of times if you don't tell them to anyone, they just sort of disappear. And that's unfortunate, because everyone, I believe, has their own story to tell. And so I'm just glad to be able to be here to help people tell theirs.
Of course, I feel like, that's a major part of, my life as well. When I see people, I kind of think, what could they be going through? How is their life? How do they live their life? I'm always having like moments of like hyper realization, and I'm like, dang, like we all have our own lives, all go to a different home. Some of us don't even have homes. We're all going through our own situations. So you really can't compare anybody to one another. We're all different, all unique in our own way. I feel like, that's just what makes being human so nice, so genuine and beautiful.
I absolutely 100% agree to that. It truly is one of the just most amazing things here today. And before we begin, go ahead and closing out, I did want to allow you again to go ahead and allow a moment to go ahead and for any of those people watching or listening who would like to continue hearing your story or whatever, if you have any spots where they can follow you online. I know you mentioned your photography page earlier. You can feel free to share again. Now, if not, that's quite all right as well, but I did at least want to provide you the opportunity again as we're closing out here.
Right. So I appreciate you for giving me the opportunity. But you can follow me at my main page. It's VV Kadin, Kadin, or like I said earlier, my photography page, which is the letter K, the letter D, and then shot and that. But yeah, I very much appreciate you for this opportunity, just allowing me to get my story out, as well as being able to just interact and talk with you as well.
Oh yeah, of course. But before we go ahead and end out this episode, I did want to allow for you to go ahead and close out our episode with either a life lesson, piece of advice, or whatever the case may be for the listening or watching audience.
A piece of advice I would have will be to always show love and be genuine to those around you. You never know what anyone's going through. And just a simple act of kindness can really make someone's day, or make someone's bad day become a good day. So I think it's very important to, just show that love and kindness out of, genuine love within your heart. It's a good trait to have, it's a good trait to grow on. And I feel like it not only helps those around you, it helps yourself, it helps your mindset, and it kind of gives you a new perspective of life.
I think that is probably the most fitting thing that we could have to end out this episode. Thank you once again, Kadin.
Thank you
for taking your time out. Oh yeah, of course, for being here. And I've just so enjoyed being able to speak with you, and definitely keep in touch and let me know about all of your great, your great adventures, photography wise, nursing wise, and all of the above. And yeah, and definitely keep me posted as you slowly ease up to graduating next year.
Of course, you keep me in the loop as well.
Oh yeah, of course, absolutely. And for you, Kadin, as well, and for those of you listening, thank you all so much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it, and I'll catch you all later. Have a great day, and I'll see y'all next time.